Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook. It's going to be a nice bourbon time. I just opened up this expression. This is Trail's End. So, and the 8-year one. I know the 10-year I think came out with a bit more fanfare, but this, it says very clearly, hey, we selected some bourbon out of Kentucky. Now, it doesn't say the mash bill on here, but we'll get into that later. But it, started in Kentucky, non-chill filtered, makes its way to Oregon, and in Oregon they finish it in oak from that state, and so that is where its trail ends. Then, just because I imagine are going to be very different, I've never had this, I thought, well, let's talk this Amador whiskey. I've talked to you about it before, but it clearly says, it started its journey in Kentucky. It's got a little map on the back. And then it came over to California, where it's finished in Chardonnay wine casks from the Napa Valley. So this is wine finish. This is nothing, just oak, but in different places. So if you have any trails in, why don't you pour and see what I pull out of there that you already know about. And then if not, you can pour some of this Amador. Either way, pour some bourbon, and maybe some bourbon that's had some journey before it's made it to your place. So pour something and come on back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for coming back. Nook's getting closer and closer to done. Still don't have the barrel head hanging. And I don't know about this little bar I picked up, but we'll see how it goes. This bourbon, I've read some decent things about, but the stuff that I read about actually was more about the 10-year-old and not as much about in the 8-year-old here. And as is my nature, I happened to find it at a decent sale, and I thought, well, that better come home and make its journey here. Maybe it'll be part of a journey's end one day. But it's a sharp-looking bottle. You do pay a little more. I said I got it for a pretty good price. 45% non-chill filtered. And online, the best I could find was several sites that said it's roughly around a 10% rye. Balanced corn and barley. That really doesn't help me too much, although I would say it's not a high rye, and it's not a wheater. That's another difference with this one when we'll get there. But that's what I know. But when I looked at their website, they talk very proudly about, was the National Forest, I can't remember the organization they're with, that, profits from the sale of this bottle make its way into supporting forests, and I think that's a wonderful pursuit. So the whiskey's from Oregon, but it was produced in Kentucky. Let's see what this bourbon's like on the nose. Oh, it's actually lively and spicy. I would peg it as a rye. It's got lots of nice oak tannins up front and some just general spiciness. There is a second layer of kind of sweetness that you're looking for. What is that? There's almost this sweet like chocolate, which I really don't get. I get chocolates out of like wine finishes or something, but there's something that's kind of sweeter playing around in there. And perhaps because they're celebrating it, perhaps because I just read about it, I'm thinking about oaks, but I feel like there's a fair amount of oak conversation going on. It's sort of like a sweet oak, a light nutty oak, and then some just good bourbon notes. A little bit of sweet vanilla and some other sugars, cooked brown, that give an impression of like a toffee caramel. So it's not really creamy and toffee caramel in the nose. The first impression for me was, oh, there's rye in here. So comes up dry, comes out spicy up front, and then kind of play around until some of those other notes come. Let's see what the palate does, both to the nose and just my experience. So hope you got something good in the glass. Cheers. Up front, my first thoughts, I was going to say, oh, this is really running into oak. It's going to be over oaked, but the body helped it. It carried it through. It gave it some nice backing, some more cooked brown sugars, some more of those nice treats and things going on, because the right up front is oaky. And the early finish is also in that conversation. There is definitely rye spice in here. It's not a heavy rye. Like, okay, they said 10, but it's in the taste for sure for me. I better get another sip going. Again, I just poured this. It's opened up for a few minutes, but I don't know this dram. We're figuring it out together. Cheers. Again, I just want to say this is now playing lighter into some pastries, into some sweet like that. Cut walnuts on a lighter pastry. I'm just trying to think of tasting notes that I'm getting there, but it's lighter in the palate. It's almost thin, almost watery, but then it's got a lot of heart. It's got a lot of flavor right across the mid palate. But that first impression continues to be almost a little bit watery. It's not creamy. To me, this is not a creamy bourbon. This is a slightly spicy. I don't want to overplay that. It's not like a ton of cracked pepper and a ton of stuff. It just presents a little bit like into that savory, spicy. It's getting a little better, but it is very woody. In fact, it reminds me, if I was pouring a comparison, I probably would have picked something like this. This is $2.91, and I've only had a dram of this, but I've had some of their other $2.91 stuff. And this is, it's got that aspen staves going on, and that aspen stuff really speaks wood. And this is not that, but it is woody. It's got good wood. It's got flavorful wood. It's got that nice, I'm trying to play around that. Is it nutty wood? Is it spicy wood? But it definitely has a lot of wood in the conversation. I'm going to enjoy getting to know that. Hopefully I'll come back to you guys after I'm down into the bottle, and I can just give you a truer sense. But right now I'd say it's well done, but it's savory, not very fruity, and lots of oak. So as I said in the beginning, this Amador Whiskey Company, this is the wheated bourbon, so it's a 20% wheat, is started in Kentucky. Now it doesn't have an age stamp, and then it made its way over to California where they finished it in Chardonnay. So I haven't had a dram yet. Did I switch them around? Nope, I just moved it over. I haven't had a dram of this in a little while, but I do know this whiskey a little better. And I didn't pick it because I was expecting it to have the same kind of flavor. This is all new oak. I don't even know toasted and charred. It probably says right on here. If I should look that up and see. But this one, of course, has some wine finish. So thinking about this second one, let's see what we get on the nose in comparison to Trail's End. It doesn't present with darker, richer fruits, but it definitely adds notes of lighter stone fruits for me. It's not quite sweet enough to be peach, but I could go, kind of an apricot note. Yeah, in fact, in contrast, that slight fruit cup, slight white grape, a little bit apricot is really strong. In comparison, this gives caramel, pastry, nuts. So this gives that impression, whereas this is leaning into that wine finish very much. In fact, I really can't get past it on the nose. So we'll see if the palate helps open it up for me. Cheers. Interesting that it also is a little bit thinner and waterier, like a little more water, a little less chew, a little less, body and oily. This was non-chill filtered, and I expected to have way more oils on that. Here, it takes a moment to get to know this. The first part of the palate follows that nose. Just so much fruit coming off a dry oaky bourbon. But now it is getting a little more chew, a little more heart, a little more character, a little bit more baking in there. I'll try another sip and get you some better notes. Cheers. Okay, the second sip and even the first, I'm tempted to be that initial stage of a little bit disappointed, a little bit light flavored, a little bit, where's the meat? Where's the heart? And now, like I really chewed on that one and it's there. There are almost Christmas spices going on. There are graham cracker. Is the wheat talking? Well, usually wheat gives me a little more creamy nature and I'm not getting that here. But now I've got actual, maybe it's because I put it in different places in my palate. I've got some kind of spices way up back there, but it's tasty. It's a little bit thin still and a little bit mechanical. I'll give you a quick comparison back onto this Trail's End now that I've tried to get into this. Coming back to the Trail's End, did try to clear my palate, but now I've had a couple of sips of bourbon, and that's usually where I'm a little more sensitive, so we'll see if this gives me anything more on it. Nope, same thing. Thin and almost watery up front, but then the flavors come through, but the flavors run into a variety of different nuts and almond shells and oaks and those kinds of things. This stays pretty much where I left it. This nose is far fruitier than the palate. The palate gives other flavors that are going on, and it's tough for me. This is far truer to bourbon with lots of oak. And this is exactly what it is. It's a finished bourbon and it gives bourbon. And then there's these other fruits going on. Right now, I'm kind of liking this. And I think this is a classier product, but this one is definitely interesting. I just need more time with this. What's been your experience with Trail's End? It's certainly tasting good, solid bourbon, but I'm hoping it's going to get richer and a little less water forward. I don't know what's going on with my palate. Talk to me about your experience about Trail's End. I'd like to hear it. And this one out of California, Amador, did you like this one or the others? I'll tell you, I really didn't like their rye finished one in port, I think. But this bourbon and Chardonnay, it's doing okay. Thanks for joining me. And if you stayed this long, you're probably a long-time viewer. I'm having fun. I built the shelves, painted the walls, and now I'm struggling with that last piece. I wanted to get off the table. The table's over there in the corner so we can play board games on it. And I wanted like a bar is a strong term. It's a pretty small space down here, but I thought, okay, I'll get, kind of a bar. But it came in with some pretty interesting wood color that I'm not sure I'm a fan of. And I'm still dialing in the lights, and the light strip I just got couldn't do the same yellow as these, so we're kind of blue over there. It's fun. It is fun for me, and I hope you're okay with me telling you a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff, because I enjoy it, and I don't know, it's an interesting conversation. Thanks for joining me. I am releasing this well after I'm recording it. I should be over in Korea. I've never been there. It'd be amazing if I could see Whiskey Whistle. Sir, that would be like a dream come true. But anyways, it's certainly my wife's dream to be over there. And it's our 31st anniversary today, actually. She's being very understanding with me shooting this. So anyways, it's always good to travel together when we can. We haven't done a big trip in decades. I hope we're okay. I hope we're safe. Thanks for joining me here. Take care.